Hey guys, how's it going? So we're back with another video, and today we're going to talk about something that I don't think gets talked about enough. So I use all different kinds of guitar picks, as does everybody. I mean, when you pick up your guitar, sometimes I'll play without a pick, but most of the time I'm going to be using a pick, just like a lot of you. And I've gone through this phase in the last 6 months to a year of trying just about everything that's out there to try to find the one that works out the best for me. And this isn't necessarily about guitar picks in the sense of like what's the best one or which one do I recommend. This one is about guitar pick thickness. I've got 3 of them right here. I've got 3 Fender picks, thin, medium, and heavy. They're all essentially identical except for how thick they are. So today we're going to talk about how does the pick thickness affect your sound, your playing, and how do they each feel. So it's going to be a pretty simple video. I'm going to hook this Telecaster right here up to this 5150. The Telecaster has very clear sounding pickups, and we should be able to hear the differences between these 3 picks. So let's go ahead and plug that in right now. We're going to run through each pick on clean and on dirty, and then we'll talk about the results at the end. By the way, I failed to mention this. This is a 2004 Fender American Standard Telecaster. Alright, so here we go. We're on a cleanish setting on the 5150. It does not clean up very well, so we're going to do the best we can. Here's the Telecaster. We're on the neck pickup. We're going to start with the thin pick. I'm going to use it. We're going to talk about it. I'm going to switch to medium. Then I'm going to use it, talk about it, switch to heavy. And then we'll do the same thing for all the rest of the settings. So this might take a little while, but, we're here for nuance. So let's see what we can do here. Okay. First thoughts and impressions immediately. As we got heavier, the sound got deeper. And playing got easier, at least for me. The thin pick, it's kind of like you gotta fight with it when you're picking like that. You can kind of move it like this so that it's real. There's almost nothing left, but then it's kind of harder to hit those because then your hand's in the way. So to pick something like that, you've kind of got to, do it like this. There was so much give, and it sounded kind of thin. I think it would sound great for something like this, though. I think it sounds okay for something like that. So now let's just do some picking, right? Alright, so something I'm noticing that might be lending itself to the thinness versus the heaviness of the sound. With the thin pick, it feels like you can't really hit the string very hard confidently because it's going to shift around in your hand a little bit. And it gives. So when you hit something, it's going to bend and then it's gonna like smack another string when you don't really want it to. With a heavier pick, when you're hitting that, it's so stiff that it's not gonna hit anything. You can hit the string harder, right? It causes more to come through the amp when you do that. To test that out, let's get the thin pick again and play it hard. See how it sounds. I don't know how well it's going to come through the microphone, which is jankily just smashed into the back of this chair faced at the speaker. I don't know how well it's going to come through to you. But here in the room, it sounds thinner to me. It doesn't sound as dynamic and as big as it does with the heavy pick. Now, with the heavy pick, though, there's so much resistance. I wish I had a little bit more, which is really what the medium is for. Okay, so that's cleanish. We're going to move it to the bridge, and we're going to do the same thing we just did, but we're going to do it on Overdrive. That's what this amp is made for, isn't it? Whoop. So let's grab the thin pick, and I don't know what we're going to play. I'll figure something out. Okay, so once again, even with the overdrive, it sounds bigger with this heavier pick. I kind of knew that that was going to happen just from my experience with doing this, but I didn't think it was going to be that drastic. I mean, geez. Alright, so now let's do something a little bit more riffy. Back to thin. Same deal with that, okay? Now, here's where my preference starts to come in. The thin didn't sound as nice, and I felt like I was kind of having to compensate for it being so thin and having so much give. The heavy sounded the best, but it was a little harder because there wasn't enough give. Medium is where it's at, man. I mean, with the medium, I feel like I can do what I want to do with this guitar, you know, or any guitar. I don't feel handicapped. I don't feel like I'm thinking about the pick. I'm just using the pick. mean, it's a 5150. I gotta play that stuff. But really, it does what I want it to do. This medium, I think, sounds the best of the three for me. What sounds the best is the heavy, but the best compromise is the medium, in my opinion. Let's flip it up to the neck here, and just play a little bit more. I mean, just there, inadvertently, I've proven my point to myself. I forgot we were doing a video about this. I just was playing. I wasn't thinking about the pick. I was just playing. And that's what it comes down to, man. When you're picking a pick the one that's not going to make you think about it. Pick the one that allows you to be you as a guitarist and allows you to play the way you play, okay? For the sake of comparison, let's do the thin and then let's do the heavy, and then we'll be done with this part. Similar kind of thing to what I just did, okay? There we go. Okay, so there you go. And what are my thoughts on those three picks? Well, we talked about it a little bit in real time as we did it, but I'm going to run through it right now as a conclusion to the video, so to speak. So we're going to start with thin. So the thing about thin, it's great for strumming. If you're playing like John Mellencamp kind of music or, you know, stuff like that, and you're just strumming along on clean, then this will do it for you. It's probably my favorite pick for that, is to use a thin pick. But for my style of playing, and just in general, first of all, it sounded a little bit brighter. The sound of the strings through the amp sounded a little bit brighter, and it sounded a little bit thinner. I know that's kind of a cliche thing to say, but it did. It sounded a little bit thinner, sounded a little bit brighter. You could hear the pick a little bit more through the amp, which doesn't really matter. It was just something that was different. As far as when you're actually playing. So when you're playing lead, you know, I hold my pick like this, okay? See, right that? Play like that. And with a thin pick, it felt like there was a little too much give, you know? When you're like tremolo picking or you're doing some fast licks or something, there's a little bit too much give. Now, if I found myself at a gig and this is all I had, could I make it work? Absolutely I could. But it's not ideal for that. Now, there is a way to get around that if you do find yourself in a situation where that's the only pick you have. You can hold it kind of like this, where just a little tiny bit of the pick is sticking out, right? And generally, when I play, I find myself adjusting to that position anyway. It just feels like you're doing a little bit more work than you should. When you're playing, you don't want anything you have to think about other than what you're playing. If you're thinking about your pick, you know, you're going to make mistakes. Happens to me at gigs frequently. I use these a lot. These are pick boys. and they've got these little dimples on them. And so when you're holding it, it pretty much stays where you hold it, okay? So you can be playing, if you're trying to do a pinch harmonic, you gotta move your finger, and sometimes your finger just gets stuck on it. So last week I was at a gig with one of these, and I was playing, and it kept getting stuck on me, and then it was staying in a place I didn't like it, and I was trying to so I'm thinking about this while I'm playing a song, and I'm moving the pick around and screwing up. So you know what I did? I threw it, and I grabbed one of these Fenders. So that's why I'm using the Fenders right now. So more trouble than it's worth, in my opinion, for just general use, but great for strumming. I do like it, but it's not my favorite. So let's put that one down, and let's grab the Heavy. The Heavy sounded a little bit bassier, a little bit beefier. Those chords just, when you hit it, you could really feel it, It didn't feel thin like the thin pick did. The Heavy pick makes it feel heavier. I think the reason for that is there is more contact with the string as you strike it with this. When you have give and resistance with the thin pick, it's not translating the energy straight into the string through the amp, You're losing a little bit of it as it bends, if that makes any sense. With the Heavy, there's nowhere for it to go. It's going to go right back up the pick through your arm and right down through the string to the amp. So I feel like this is great for if you're chugging chords, like if you're doing Metallica or Megadeth kind of stuff. This is great for that. When it comes to soloing, for me, it feels nice, but I do wish it had a little bit of give. It has a tiny bit of give, but not quite enough for me. When you're moving, between strings, when you're soloing or when you're doing a riff, you kind of wish you had a little bit of give to flip off of that string to get down to the next one. With one of these, it's going to be so loud when you do that there's two options. You can kind of lighten your grip on the pick as you do that, or you can pick the pick up and move it down, which that's technically proper technique, and I do that. But again, it's one of those things that you have to think about as you are playing, and in the example I gave a minute ago, not ideal. That's me. There are a lot of people out there that will shred with something like the thin pick. Van Halen did. I think he used a 0.6. Paul Gilbert uses like a 0.5, so it can be done, and it is done, and really the pick isn't an excuse for not playing well. You can adapt to anything and make anything work for you. But that is my issue with the Heavy, is I wish it had a little bit more give. So that leaves us with medium. And, people are going to call me basic for this probably. This is probably the most basic pick ever, because it is in the middle, it is Fender, and it's that celluloid. Most of you have used one of these picks or currently use this pick. It is the most basic pick, but there is a reason for that, I think. Number one, it appears to be, do you want light or heavy? Oh, I don't know. Do you have something in the middle? So someone who doesn't really know, you end up with medium. I think the thin is too thin and the heavy is too heavy. Where do you go? Medium. In my opinion, this is the one right here. I really like this because it gives you the benefit of having that little bit of give that I was talking about. It doesn't get totally shredded up. That's another thing about the thin, is after a little bit of playing, like through one set, it's pretty much gone. I mean, the tip of it doesn't exist anymore. I mean, that's why you buy 12 or 50 of them at a time, so you just switch to another one, but they don't last very long. These, they last a little bit longer. I like the imprinting on it better. You can't really tell, but this is imprinted into the pick instead of just being screen printed on there. So it gives you a little bit of grip instead of zero grip. The thin didn't really have much, and the heavy was just screen printed. Maybe that's the way they make them now. Maybe that's just the experience I had. But this pick, so it wasn't super thin. It wasn't super heavy, but it was heavier than it was thin. This is closer to a heavy than it is to a thin as far as how it feels and as far as how it reacts with the strings. I think, to my ear, this gives you the best of both worlds, and it's just the one that I prefer, and I think it's the one that sounded the best. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments what you think. What kind of picks are you using right now? When I started, I used Tortex Red. Those were the ones I used for 5-10 years before I started trying different stuff. Then I went to the Max Grip, the heaviest one that they made, and then I tried Jazz 3s like everybody else has, and I've tried just about everything at this point. And right now, this is the one that is my choice. This one and the Pick Boy that I threw somewhere. Here it is. And this Pick Boy. These two are my favorites right now. When I gig, I've got these on one side and these on the other. And then just depending on how I feel, you know, right now, it's the Fender. So there you go. That's the difference between the three thicknesses of picks, the three most common thicknesses of picks. You can translate this to pretty much any manufacturer if you stay within that same manufacturer. So from Gibson, thin, medium, heavy. If you go with like the Tortex picks, you know, I'm not talking about, they don't have thin, medium, and heavy, but like a lighter gauge, a middle gauge, and a heavy gauge. Dunlop, lighter gauge, middle gauge, heavier gauge. The results are pretty much going to be the same if you stick within the same manufacturer. Now, when you start comparing different manufacturers, then all bets are off. There are other variables at play, such as the material that they're using, the manufacturing process, how the shape is of the tip and stuff like that. So, you know, that might be something for another video in the future, but for right now, I just wanted to address what's the difference between the three thicknesses of picks that are most common, and hopefully I've helped answer that question. But really, the best way for you to do this, try it yourself. If you go to a local music shop, one like mine, they usually have loose picks that you can buy, but they'll probably let you try them out. So just grab one of each size of the kind that you're looking at, try them out, and then buy a whole bunch of the ones that you like. So there you go. Thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate all of you very much. Please like and please subscribe. Helps out the channel a lot. I am going to leave a link in the description to all three of the picks that we used in this video. Please join the Discord also. We've got a link for that in the description as well. We talk about guitar gear, etc. Things like this. So you might come in and say, hey, I've been trying this pick, but I'm having this issue. What do you recommend? I'd love to help you out with that and answer that question for you. So thanks again. Really appreciate all of you. See you next time, and keep on rocking.